afternoon, students. Welcome to the 2022 presentation for the learner support in natural science and health. This is a presentation for all the 4 assessments, including the assignment that you wrote also, so there will not be another presentation after this. I'm Generosa Simon. I'm your tutor. Those are my contact details. Feel free to contact me on those given hours. I just forgot to say that on Saturday and Sunday, Saturday can be the whole day up to 10 o'clock, but Sunday should be from 2 o'clock because I have to go to church. You can also send me an email. So let's get started. For you to be able to make it in this module, you have to put in mind that there are 2 assessments that is required of you. There is the first one, which includes your assignment. The assignment will count 40% of the assessment, of the continuous assessment marks, and then the exam will be 60%. So you have to put more effort in studying for your exams because the assignment is only 40%. And at the end of the day, you need to have at least 50% for you to pass this module. Let's get started without wasting any time. This is going to be a short presentation. The module is big. You know, it's around 8 units. So I'm not able to cover all the units within an hour that I have, but I jumped around based on how I see the performance previously, and also just how we pick the trend of how which one you struggle with, not just you, but eventually and gradually as we go through this module year by year. So I'm not saying this is all you have to study for the exams. What I'm saying is you have to cover your whole module. This is just a part of the module. And the exam is not this. It's not just what you see here. It's more than that. So please make sure you study the whole module. If you need assistance, I'm just a call away. I'm just an email away. I'm just a text away. So let's get started. With Unit 1, I decided to pick the classroom environment. And some of these things I also picked because they are the ones that are basics, especially when you are in the field. You need to make sure that this is a must. When we talk about the ideal classroom environment in your natural science and health, remember this module is a support to your learning and teaching and learning of the natural science and health in your workplace. This is how you support when you are teaching that subject. So in terms of the environment, when you look at your environment, you have to assess it. So when you assess your environment before you start giving a lesson, before you even prepare for that lesson, there are things that you have to consider. I'm going to mention some, and then you can take it up from your module. Let's look at the facility first. If you are the teacher and you want to give a lesson, you have to make sure that you look at the facilities that are available at your school. So, for example, if you are supposed to do a test specifically of starch, before you even consider putting it on paper as a plan, you need to make sure that what is it that is required for that assessment to take place or for that lesson to take place. So, for example, in terms of a test, it's an experiment. You need a lab. So before you even start preparing, you need to check if the school have a lab. You also have to make sure that you check if you are giving the kids a project. Is there a library where they can get the information? So you have to make sure you assess your facilities before you even start. And when you look at also the medias in terms of the teaching aid that you are going to need that is available at school, because then you know already that if the school does not have, you have to make other arrangements. So it's very important you create an ideal classroom environment. So one of the factors also that can be considered is the classroom size and competition and composition. The actual number of learners in your class will determine whatever you are going to do, either the lesson itself or how you are going to set up the class. So if it's too low, you already know that when you are going to plan for activities, you are going to plan based on the low number. If it's for just 5, you can't start planning to have a pair of 5 or to have a group that is more than 5. So you have to make sure that whatever you have, you use that, you plan according to that number. Like they say there, the pair work, the group work, the demonstrations, the experiments, you have to look at the size of the class also, as well as the number of the actual number of the learners that you have in that class. So one of the factors also that I can talk about is the seating arrangement in your class. You have to evaluate to just see how are you going to arrange the seating based also on that specific class that you are going to give, because the activity for each class, the activities for each class differs. So if your activity for that day require group work, for example, so it means that you have to see how you are going to move around the furniture. Before you even move around, you come there, moving around the furniture, you have to assess to see, is my furniture or the furniture in my class, are they movable? If they are not movable, it means that you have to arrange in a way that you cater for those unmovable furnitures. They said no class will perfectly suit all the activities. You need to arrange according to that activity and that particular lesson, that, like I said. So I know there are a few other factors that you need to consider, but because of time, I only gave those ones. Please go in your module. Feel free to call me so I can explain further. So let's look at another aspect within Unit 1 that I chose, features of emotional support. When you talk about supporting teaching and learning within your natural science and health, you have to deal with emotions, learners' emotions, so that it does not affect their learning within your class. So one of the factors that I will be looking at is real caring for the learner's progress. Do you really care for the learner's progress, or you are just giving your lesson to finish the syllabus? So you have to make sure that you support your kids, you are keen, you are caring, so that they can be able to perform at their maximum level. So you should be able to also show caring when it comes to the work, be it the work that you invest or the work when you look at what they are doing. So you have to make sure that, like I say, it's important for learning and that they are able to think critically and progressively if they are being supported, if they know my teacher cares. And kids knows. Our emotions sometimes, we tend not to really worry about it, but even your facial expression can show the learner whether you really care or not. Even your body, especially your body language, sometimes it's uncontrollable. So you have to make sure that you see how you will not show that other emotion that will discourage your learners. You should show them respect and acceptance. You have to make sure that the environment you create is inclusive for all. Be it of gender, you have to include genders, respect them both. You have also to look at their abilities and disabilities. You have to respect them with that regard. Make sure that your environment in your class is inclusive for all. Show empathy. In terms of the anxieties and circumstances of the learners. So learners comes with different emotions, comes with different burdens, comes with different difficulties. You should be willing to listen to your learners. You should be able to understand your learners, so that your communication between you and learner should be open in a way that if the child feels that I have a problem, even from home, they should be able to stand up, go and tell their teachers. They should not be scared of their teachers. So you find kids that come from home, they're hungry, they didn't even eat, but they are very scared to come to you. Or maybe there's abuses of a certain kind at home. So be that person that you can be able to be empathetic to their circumstances and be able to give necessary support to them. So that is it that I managed to take from Unit 1. Remember, I cannot be able to cover it all. Time is limited. In Unit 2, I like putting this in Unit 2. Every time, if you see most of my presentations, there is no way you will not find this concept, because whether you are from where, this is a center, it's one of the centers of the methodology that there is no way you can run away from, because this methodology brings cooperative learning, it brings togetherness, it brings peer learning, it brings all you can mention where kids can collaborate and work together and be able to learn from each other at the same time. That's why I'm emphasizing on this one. I like putting it up forward there so that you can learn, and when you go in the field, you know that I know this one. And you can be able to practice it, because it can also be hectic. So we usually base it on those 5 main points. At times you need to know them as they are, but you also need to be able to explain it. If you get 10 marks and you're supposed to expand them one by one. The worst thing you can do is to get 10 marks and you are only giving titles of those, which is not enough. You can only get 5 or even 2, 3. The very first one, what are the benefits of the learner-centered approach? One of them, it develops the learner. The learner themselves can be able to develop the inquiry mind. They can be able to think. They can be able to be creative. They can also be able to process the information easily, because it's a group learning. And to add on that, another point also, or another advantage, it can present them with the material. You can also have an opportunity to look for the materials that are relevant to them, that can integrate learning more, and also those ones from their environment. Even themselves, when you put them on the group to discuss, they can be able to bring those materials up at the same time, learning. Those ones that didn't know about this one from the other one, they will learn. So that's of advantage. They'll also be able to develop their competencies, their concept, they'll be able to understand, they'll be able to do things after that. They can recognize pattern and all that. And in this process, remember, you as a teacher, you are supposed to be a facilitator. So when I say a facilitator, you are just supposed to guide them, to encourage them, to give them constructive feedback. You don't give the feedback itself, you lead them to the answer. Why do you think that? How about thinking along this? What do you think will happen after this? So you have to make sure that you lead them there, not giving them information. And in all of this, at the center of it all, learners are active. They are active learners. They are not just passive, like empty vessels, you know. They are more passive. They will be more responsible for their own learning. They will be keen to develop their skills because they are in charge. And they will be able to work independently and also to be able to collaborate with the others. So it's very important. Learners should be active in that process. So another topic that I also want to bring to your attention is human health and development. So you know that it's very important we know about ourselves. So likewise, it's important that the learners knows about themselves. So this helps them, especially with the emotions that comes with these developments within them. Because when you talk about human development, you talk of those changes that tend to come to them, especially in your case that you'll be dealing with kids that are coming in stages of development, major stages of development, like the puberty they mentioned there. When you look at puberty and sexual development, that's a critical face that even kids sometimes do not understand. So it's very important that you create that awareness in them so they know what happens in their body. You know, voices change. The girls start with their menstruation. That's when they start developing that need of being involved in sexual issues. So you need to just sensitize them so they understand. So when these things happen, they know this is happening and it's normal. Their feelings and emotions. This is very important. These things comes with emotions. And emotion is a natural state. You see, it happens to us all the time. It's involuntary. We can't control it. We can control it. But at times, when you talk about emotions, then after that emotions comes the feeling. So it's either happiness, joy, sad, hopeless, a child crying, depression, you see, or you mention them all. So you encounter all this one in your class. You should also know now how to deal with them if they pop up. For example, when you talk of emotion, when a mother have a baby, they tend to love, to show them love. They nurture them, they do all sorts of activities. When you fear a snake, you run away. So a feeling comes and you do what you need to do. So in your case, when a feeling comes up in your class, you should know how to handle it also and try to create and help these kids create a positive self-esteem, which will also help them in their lifetime. Then we talk of gender roles. So this is also when it comes to now female and males, and you know these kids are in those stages. So then they should know but you as a teacher, again, you need to look at, okay, in community, what do they say? Boys do this, boys do that. And then you also have to understand, even themselves, they will understand that, yeah, mathematics is for boys. And when it comes to nursing and all that, verbal communication, we are more good at it as females. So you should know how to deviate these kids from such things. You should know how to deal with them when it comes to that, so that they do not grow up with that sometimes that is not needed in them. Unit 3. In Unit 3, I looked at gender sensitivity because at times we tend to struggle with gender issues, how to treat our kids equally, and sometimes how to say math is for all, not just for boys. So you see, you need to look at gender issues. You need to be conscious of gender issues when you are teaching, so that you do not end up disadvantaging one of your learners or one of your gender as compared to the other one. So you have to make sure that you treat both equally. So in terms of leadership, for example, maybe the RLC, not the RLC, but the class captains. So you have to have a male and a female. So you have to make sure they're equal. In terms of presentations, you have to give to both males and female, whether it's in mathematics, in geography, in biology, natural science, in what, you have to be cognitive of who you give the task in the class. You have to make sure that they are both free to express themselves. When you give work in your natural science and health class, you have to make sure that even if it's a drama, experiment, whether it's a project, you have to make sure that you mix both genders. In terms of assessment, you have to make sure that you assess it the same way for both genders. You should also give them the same opportunities so that they also learn the same way, and they will not be saying that you are favoring one after the other. Sometimes they will not say it, but you will see that they will start withdrawing from the lesson. You will see that they will start performing lesser and lesser because they see that even teacher knows that this is not for us. So make sure that everything is equal. And in Unit 4, we look at reinforcement and assessment. This is because most of the time you'll be doing assessment in terms of the test, in terms of the exams, and all that. So you need to understand these two concepts. When we talk of reinforcement, we are talking of the modification of the behavior. Either you are strengthening them or you are trying to withdraw that stimuli or that response from happening. Either you want it to happen more or you do not want it to happen more. If you want it to happen more, you encourage it in reinforcement, giving prizes. If you do not want it to happen more, you exhibit it. So then you need to discourage it from happening in your class. So between these two concepts, you would wonder which one comes first. Is it reinforcement or assessment? So you look at it. Assessment, when you talk of assessment, you talk of you assessing the work of the learners, determining whether it's right or wrong. So if it's a test, you mark it, you see if the learner have passed or failed. So when you look at the two, it means assessment comes, you take a test, you mark it, and then reinforcement comes second, because then after the mark, you decide if Peter is going to get a word excellent or Maria is going to get a word put in more effort. So reinforcement comes, then assessment second. When we look at the reinforcement, I want us to look at the reinforcement first. You can either be a positive reinforcer. This means that you want to increase the future likelihood of that situation to happen again. For example, if a child, Maria, finishes the test, maybe you can give them a calculator, you give them a sweet, you give them a reward, so that next time when there's a test again, they want to be number one because they don't want to miss that reward. Or you want to be a negative reinforcer. This one, a negative reinforcer, also increase the likelihood of that response to occur in the future. You want to increase it from happening in the future. For example, those learners who worked productively, you can then take the homework away from them so they can continue working productively. Let me say you gave them a homework, and these learners did so well that they are so much ahead of the others. If you want them to continue doing that, not just them, even the others to start wanting to do what the others did, you can, for example, say, okay, these two are exempted from doing the next homework. Those ones that did not do well will do this homework next time, but you two, you will not be doing this homework, you will relax. So in that way, you are still increasing that likelihood that more will do better next time. And then the last one, if you now want to punish. Punishing means you want to decrease whatever that likelihood for it to happen again. So the punishment may involve either removing the positive reinforcer or presenting a negative reinforcer. So if, for example, learners waste time, you may take away their free time. It's very simple. You are in the class, the kids are writing, and then the break is within 5 minutes. If that child did not finish, instead of that child going to a 30 minutes break, they can go to a 10-minute break. You say, you sit in the class until you finish your work, and then you can go for a break later. Otherwise, they said you can also remove the positive responser or reinforcer, or you can present a negative reinforcer where you can also assign them extra work so that next time they know whatever they get, they have to finish. Otherwise, I will get extra on top of what I did not finish. And the assessment, we have 3 types of assessments. As a teacher, you will encounter these 3 types of assessment. You need to be aware of them. You have the summative assessment. This type of assessment is the one that deals with the end product. So this usually takes place at the end of the year in the form of the examination or major test. Usually this one would determine whether the child moves to the next grade or not. And then you have the formative assessment. This is the assessment that takes place on a daily basis. B is question and answer that you do in the class, the normal test that you do in the class, just to assess their progress, to see how the learners are doing in achieving the learned content. And then you have the last one, the diagnostic assessment. This is a pre-test. Before you give a new topic, you are supposed to assess the knowledge. How far does the learners know, so that you can also be able to set your new topic in line with what they already know and what they need to know more. So this is just a pre-test. You do it before you start a new skill or a new topic. And now you finish assessing, you are done with the assessment, and then you are doing your reinforcement, and when you are now doing your assessment, you need to give feedback on, especially on the formative assessment, you need to give regular feedback. Now the question is, how do you give helpful feedback to your learners when you are doing your assessments? So you need to make sure that whatever good the child is doing, praise them. Well done, Peter. Well done, Mary. Well done, Timotheus. Well done. That is very good. Try again, even more next time. Such things. Kids feel good, especially when their names are associated with praises. They will even feel, instead of saying good classes, you should focus on the individual learner also, so that they will even feel more motivated. Also, make sure that when you give now your feedback, do not be judgmental, and make sure that you always offer improvement. Like you want to give them way on how to improve next time. Either you refer them to where they can get the answers, or you can even just lead them there through the question and answer as you are going on. So do not be judgmental. Make sure that your learners are, when you judge them, it should always be positive. There are those ones that have shortcomings. Make sure that you cater for them. Make sure that you also give them challenging tasks so that they can be able to prove their potential to you. And where necessary, give them remedial teaching so that they can catch up wherever they are lacking. So that you can give them, you can even stay just 30 minutes after the school so that you can catch up with those ones that are lacking behind. So you need to be able to also put in extra time to volunteer as a teacher, so that without even thinking of getting anything in return. In Unit 5, when we are talking of support, not just, you don't just look at support from the teacher. You also need to look at where else can I enhance my kids' teaching and learning. So in this case, if it's not you that they can learn best from, where else can they learn best from? So then you can say, okay, for example, I see that this topic, there is Esther knows it better than the others. Let me see if Esther can be able to help the others. So it takes us to that topic in Unit 5, the use of volunteer learners. These learners can be selected by the school or by the teacher, and then they are given a certain topic, and then they can assist the others that do not understand it. Like I said, where they lack understanding, sometimes it's best if they learn from their fellow learner. It can even be a learner from grade 9 that knows that topic coming to teach the learners in grade 8. So it depends. So you just want them to, those ones that can volunteer, to be able to assist the others. But you have to make sure that whatever you do, it does not affect their preparations, either for the test or for the examination. So maybe you can use them on holidays or chances where you see that at least it will not also affect their own learning. And apart from just teaching, they can also be able to be used as motivational tools, where whenever they have done something good at school, especially if they have performed well overall, then the teacher can also be able to use them, so they can also be able to give the others that motivation, so that they can also be able to go to classes and be able to assist when the teacher is not around, and then they can be like teachers in the class, you know. In a way, you are also giving them that leadership aspect they will need in the future. In Unit 6, The issue of technology is coming up. We are looking at COVID-19. You see that a lot of it is happening in terms of online now, online teaching, online learning. So technology is really becoming, or it has become the center of the teaching and learning nowadays. Technology can be as a subject itself, where the kids can learn technology as a subject, and at the end of the day can even create their career out of it. And whatever they learn, they can also be able to use or apply it in other subjects like the natural science and health. Can be able to use the computer after that when you are teaching them using the computer and all that. In school, it's also like you want to use it, it's being used more now. You have to find a way of how to use technology within your teaching and learning or as a school, because these days we don't even have to go in the field. Instead of going for that field trip, especially nowadays with COVID, you would rather just want to use the internet. As long as you have your computer, you give them a topic or a project, and then they can just, if it's pictures, they can get it from the internet of that animal or plant. If it's maybe a story, they can always search on the internet. Then you don't even have to go in the field. You are saving your school money also, that they were supposed to put in that transport, they were supposed to put in that food and all that accommodation. So that is how much technology is important in the class. They can use computers also in the class. They can use microscope for their experiments and all that. Technology can also improve the practical experiments and all that, because now we have a way of using computers to teach lessons, to teach interactive lessons. You can use those models and you can just come up with a lesson out of that. Let's look at how of assistance if there is the learner's prior knowledge and experience during your teaching and learning. Imagine you are coming in the class. You want to teach the kids about the importance of saving water. Instead of just start teaching and giving your lesson, think about what these learners can bring on the table when it comes to what they already know. So you have to make sure that at least before you start your lesson, as a recap, think of what do these kids know already that can help me? And then, in that way, it can be able to help you. It can be able to help you also incorporate it in their teaching and learning. That's why they're saying linking up the learner's prior knowledge is very important. Because it helps them to be more active. It helps them to relate that content they are learning to the situation that they know. At the same time, they will also be able to be responsible for their own learning, because now they even want to be the one to be pointed at. They want to be the one to talk about what happens, where they are coming from in terms of water saving. You see, they will be responsible and in charge of their own learning. It really helps you, because now you will just be facilitating while they are going on. So they can be able to associate that activity with what they already know. Like we said, their ideas will be more constructive because they are dealing with what they know. So you have to make sure that whatever you know, these kids, sometimes we underestimate them. But when you put the topic on the table, they will prove you wrong. So whenever you prepare, just before you start your lesson, or before the lesson of the day ends, just see how much they know, so it helps you also prepare for the next day. Or before you start your lesson, then just listen to them first, so that they can give you ideas of what they know already about that topic, and then you can build on that. And then in that way, the class is more interactive, it's more live, it's more of these kids that want to take charge and to prove to each other that, yes, this one is me that knows the best. When it comes to saving water, it's me that knows how to do it best at home. When you brush, you close the tap, you do. So they will be the one that will tell you, and at the same time, you are also learning from them. That comes to the end of our presentation. Like I said, it's not all. Go back to your module, study more, and if you need more of the information, you are welcome. If you need a guide, perhaps you don't have it, I have it, let me know, I can send it to you. But it's best you prepare well in advance. It's best you know your timing. When you come in the exam, you are more prepared. You know you only have 2 hours. How do I manage my 2 hours? Put in more effort. You don't want to fail the module and then pay again, or you want to go in the field, you go in with the name of the IOL. You are from IOL, but you can't even support your kids in the class. So for us to keep our reputation, for us to keep our institution high, make sure that you go through your content, not just for the exam, generally apply it in the field. And then I tell you, at the end of the day, everybody will even want to come and enroll here. At the end of the day, everybody would want all the teachers that are coming from IOL, because we are setting that starting with our teachers that are going in the field. So with that, good luck. I gave you my contacts. Feel free to contact me, and good luck.